CG Excise Act, 1915. Chapter 1. Preliminary. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. 3. 4. Power to declare what shall be deemed to be country liquor and foreign liquor, respectively. 5. Definition of retail and wholesale sale. 6. Saving of enactment. Chapter 2. Establishment and control. 7. Establishment and powers thereof. 7a. Establishment of flying squads. Chapter 3. Import, export and transport. 8. Power to prohibit import, export or transport. 9. Restriction on import, export or transport. 10. Requirement of pass for import, export or transport. 11. Passes for import, export or transport. 12. Passes issued by other authorities may be deemed passes granted under this Act. Chapter 4. Manufacture, possession and sale. 13. License required for manufacture, etc., of intoxicants. 14. Establishment or licensing of distilleries and warehouses. 15. Payment of duty on removal from distillery, brewery or place of storage. 16. Possession of intoxicants generally. 17. License required for sale of intoxicant. 18. Power to grant lease of right to manufacture, etc. 18a. Exclusive privileges of manufacture, sale, etc. may be granted. 19. Lessee's permission to draw tari. 20. Manufacture and sale of liquor in military cantonments. 21. Duties of licensees with regard to measurement and testing. 22. Prohibition of employment of male persons under the age of 21 years and of women. 23. Prohibition of sale of liquor intoxicating drug to persons under the age of 21 years. 23a. Prohibition of advertisements relating to liquor. 24. Closing of shops for the sake of public peace. Chapter 5. Duties and fees. 25. Duty on excisable articles. 26. Ways of levying such duty. 27. Payment for grant of leases. 27a. Savings for duties being levied at commencement of the Constitution. Chapter 6. Licenses, permits and passes. 28. Form and conditions of license, etc. 28a. Payment of supervision charges. 29. Power to take security from licensee. 30. Technical defects, irregularities and omissions. 31. Power to cancel or suspend license, etc. 32. Power to withdraw licenses. 33. Surrender of licenses. Chapter 7. Offenses and penalties. 34. Penalty for unlawful manufacture, transport, possession, sale, etc. 35. Penalty for altering or attempting to alter any denatured spirit or denatured spirituous preparation. 36. Penalty for illegal possession. 36a. Penalty for opening, keeping or using any place as a common drinking house or for having care, management or control of, or for assisting in conducting, business of any such place. 36b. Penalty for being found drunk or for purpose of drinking in a common drinking house. 36c. Penalty for permitting a place to be used for the commission by other person of any offense punishable under Section 34, Section 35, Section 36 or Section 36a. 36d. Execution of bond to abstain from commission of offenses punishable under Section 34 or Section 36. 36e. Magistrate to require a person to show cause why he should not be ordered to execute a bond for good behavior. 36f. Penalty for consumption of alcohol at public places. 37. Penalty for offense not otherwise provided for. 38. Penalty for certain unlawful acts of licensed vendors. 38a. Penalty on licensed manufacturer or vendor of intoxicant for mixing or permitting to be mixed with such article any noxious drug or any foreign ingredient or any diluting or coloring substance. 39. Penalty for misconduct by licensee, etc. 40. Penalty for allowing consumption in chemist's shop, etc. 40a. Punishment for obstruction to, assault on officer, etc. 41. Manufacture, sale or possession by one person on account of another. 42. Attempts to commit and abatement of offenses. 43. Presumption is to commission of offences in certain cases. 44. Criminal liability of licensee for acts of servants. 45. Enhanced punishment after previous conviction. 46. Liability of certain things to confiscation. 47. Order of confiscation. 47a. Confiscation of seized intoxicants, articles, implements, utensils, materials, conveyance, etc. 47b. Appeal against the order of confiscation. 47c. Revision before the Court of Sessions against the order of appellate authority. 47d. Bar of jurisdiction of the court under certain circumstances. 48. Power to compound offences and imposed penalty. 48a. Special provision for the imposition of penalty by the excise commissioner or collector. 49. Penalty on officers making vexatious search, seizure, detention or arrest. Chapter 7a. Penalty for offences against life. 49a. Penalty for import etc. of liquor unfit for human consumption or for altering or attempting to alter denatured spirituous preparation. Chapter 8. Detention, investigation and trial offences. 50. Landholders and others to give information. 51. Power to enter and inspect places of manufacture and sale. 52. Power to arrest without warrant to seize article liable to confiscation and to make searches. 53. Power of magistrate to issue a warrant. 54. Power to search without a warrant. 54a. Arrest without warrant for obstruction or assault. 55. Powers of excise officers in matters of investigation. 56. Report by investigation officer. 57. Report by excise officer. 57a. Police to take charge of articles seized. 58. Arrests, searches etc., how to be made. 59. Security for appearance in case of arrests without warrant. 59a. Certain offence under the Act to be non-bailable. 60. Section 60. 61. Limitation of prosecutions. 61a. Tender of pardon, accused person turning approver. Chapter 8a. Special provisions for scheduled areas. 61b. Definitions. 61c. Scope and extent. 61d. Exemption of members of the scheduled tribes from certain provisions of the Act. 61e. Power of Gram Sabha to regulate and prohibit manufacture, sale, etc. of intoxicants. 61f. Enforcement of the decisions of Gram Sabha. Chapter 9. Miscellaneous. 62. Power to make rules. 63. Publication of rules and notification. 64. Recovery of government dues. 65. Government lien of property of defaulters. 66. Power of state government to exempt persons or intoxicants from the provisions of the Act. 67. Protection to persons acting under this Act. 68. Limitation of suits. 69. Repeal of enactments. The Arms Act, 1959. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, extent and commencement. 2. Definitions and interpretation. Chapter 2. Acquisition, possession, manufacture, sale, import, export and transport of arms and ammunition. 3. License for acquisition and possession of firearms and ammunition. 4. License for acquisition and possession of arms of specified description in certain cases. 5. License for manufacture, sale, etc., of arms and ammunition. 6. License for the shortening of guns or conversion of imitation firearms into firearms. 7. Prohibition of acquisition or possession, or of manufacture or sale of prohibited arms or prohibited ammunition. 8. Prohibition of sale or transfer of firearms not bearing identification marks. 9. Prohibition of acquisition or possession by, or of sale or transfer to, young persons and certain other persons of firearms, etc. 10. License for import and export of arms, etc. 11. Power to prohibit import or export of arms, etc. 12. Power to restrict or prohibit transport of arms. Chapter 3. Provisions relating to licenses. 13. Grant of licenses. 14. Refusal of licenses. 15. Duration and renewal of license. 16. Fees, etc., for license. 17. Variation, suspension and revocation of licenses. 18. Appeals. Chapter IV. Powers and procedure. 19. Power to demand production of license, etc. 20. Arrest of persons conveying arms, etc., under suspicious circumstances. 21. Deposit of arms, etc., on possession ceasing to be lawful. 22. Search and seizure by magistrate. 23. Search of vessels, vehicles for arms, etc. 24. Seizure and detention under orders of the central government. 24a. Prohibition as to possession of notified arms in disturbed areas, etc. 24b. Prohibition as to carrying of notified arms in or through public places in disturbed areas, etc. Chapter V. Offenses and penalties. 25. Punishment for certain offenses. 26. Secret contraventions. 27. Punishment for using arms, etc. 28. Punishment for use and possession of firearms or imitation firearms in certain cases. 29. Punishment for knowingly purchasing arms, etc., from unlicensed person or for delivering arms, etc., to person not entitled to possess the same. 30. Punishment for contravention of license or rule. 31. Punishment for subsequent offenses. 32. Power to confiscate. 33. Offenses by companies. Chapter VI. Miscellaneous. 34. Sanction of central government for warehousing of arms. 35. Criminal responsibility of persons in occupation of premises in certain cases. 36. Information to be given regarding certain offenses. 37. Arrest and searches. 38. Offenses to be cognizable. 39. Previous sanction of the district magistrate necessary in certain cases. 40. Protection of action taken in good faith. 41. Power to exempt. 42. Power to take census of firearms. 43. Power to delegate. 44. Power to make rules. 45. Act not to apply in certain cases. 46. Repeal of Act 11 of 1878. The Unlawful Activities, Prevention, Act, 1967. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, Extent and Application. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. Unlawful associations. 3. Declaration of an association as unlawful. 4. Reference to tribunal. 5. Tribunal. 6. Period of operation and cancellation of notification. 7. Power to prohibit the use of funds of an unlawful association. 8. Power to notify places used for the purpose of an unlawful association. 9. Procedure to be followed in the disposal of applications under this Act. Chapter 3. Offenses and penalties. 10. Penalty for being member of an unlawful association, etc. 11. Penalty for dealing with funds of an unlawful association. 12. Penalty for contravention of an order made in respect of a notified place. 13. Punishment for unlawful activities. 14. Offenses to be cognizable. Chapter IV. Punishment for terrorist activities. 15. Terrorist Act. 16. Punishment for Terrorist Act. 16a. Omitted. 17. Punishment for raising funds for Terrorist Act. 18. Punishment for conspiracy, etc. 18a. Punishment for organizing of terrorist camps. 18b. Punishment for recruiting of any person or persons for Terrorist Act. 19. Punishment for harboring, etc. 20. Punishment for being member of terrorist gang or organization. 21. Punishment for holding proceeds of terrorism. 22. Punishment for threatening witness. 22a. Offenses by companies. 22b. Offenses by societies or trusts. 22c. Punishment for offenses by companies, societies or trusts. 23. Enhanced penalties. Chapter V. Forfeiture of proceeds of terrorism or any property intended to be used for terrorism. 24. Reference to proceeds of terrorism to include any property intended to be used for terrorism. 24a. Forfeiture of proceeds of terrorism. 25. Powers of investigating officer and designated authority and appeal against order of designated authority. 26. Court to order forfeiture of proceeds of terrorism. 27. Issue of show cause notice before forfeiture of proceeds of terrorism. 28. Appeal. 29. Order of forfeiture not to interfere with other punishments. 30. Claims by third party. 31. Powers of designated authority. 32. Certain transfers to be null and void. 33. Forfeiture of property of certain persons. 34. Company to transfer shares to government. Chapter VI. Terrorist organizations and individuals. 35. Amendment of schedule, etc. 36. Denotification of terrorist organization or individual. 37. Review committees. 38. Offense relating to membership of a terrorist organization. 39. Offense relating to support given to a terrorist organization. 40. Offense of raising fund for a terrorist organization. Chapter 7. Miscellaneous. 41. Continuance of association. 42. Power to delegate. 43. Officers competent to investigate offense under Chapters IV and VI. 43a. Power to arrest, search, etc. 43b. Procedure of arrest, seizure, etc. 43c. Application of provisions of Code. 43d. Modified application of certain provisions of the Code. 43e. Presumption as to offense under Section 15. 43f. Obligation to furnish information. 44. Protection of witnesses. 45. Cognizance of offenses. 46. Admissibility of evidence collected through the interception of communications. 47. Bar of jurisdiction. 48. Effect of act and rules, etc., inconsistent with other enactments. 49. Protection of action taken in good faith. 50. Saving. 51. Impounding of passport and arms license of person charged sheeted under the Act. 51a. Certain powers of the central government. 52. Power to make rules. 53. Orders and rules to be laid before both Houses of Parliament. The First Schedule. The Second Schedule. The Third Schedule. The Fourth Schedule. Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, 1985. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, extent and commencement. 2. Definitions. 3. Power to add to or omit from the list of psychotropic substances. Chapter 2. Authorities and officers. 4. Central government to take measures for preventing and combating abuse of and illicit traffic in narcotic drugs, etc. 5. Offices of central government. 6. The Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropy Substances Consultative Committee. 7. Offices of state government. Chapter IIA. National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. 7a. National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. 7b. Annual Report of Activities financed under the Fund. Chapter 3. Prohibition, Control and Regulation. 8. Prohibition of certain operations. 8a. Prohibition of certain activities relating to property derived from offense. 9. Power of central government to permit, control and regulate. 9a. Power to control and regulate controlled substances. 10. Power of state government to permit, control and regulate. 11. Narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, etc., not liable to distress or attachment. 12. Restrictions over external dealings in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. 13. Special provisions relating to coca plant and coca leaves for use in the preparation of flavoring agent. 14. Special provision relating to cannabis. Chapter IV. Offenses and penalties. 15. Punishment for contravention in relation to poppy straw. 16. Punishment for contravention in relation to coca plant and coca leaves. 17. Punishment for contravention in relation to prepared opium. 18. Punishment for contravention in relation to opium poppy and opium. 19. Punishment for embezzlement of opium by cultivator. 20. Punishment for contravention in relation to cannabis plant and cannabis. 21. Punishment for contravention in relation to manufactured drugs and preparations. 22. Punishment for contravention in relation to psychotropic substances. 23. Punishment for illegal import into India, export from India or transshipment of narcotic drugs and Psychotropic substances. 24. Punishment for external dealings in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances in contravention of Section 12. 25. Punishment for allowing premises, etc., to be used for commission of an offense. 25a. Punishment for contravention of orders made under Section 9a. 26. Punishment for certain acts by licensee or his servants. 27. Punishment for consumption of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. 27a. Punishment for financing illicit traffic and harboring offenders. 27b. Punishment for contravention of Section 8a. 28. Punishment for attempts to commit offenses. 29. Punishment for abetment in criminal conspiracy. 30. Preparation. 31. Enhanced punishment for offenses after previous conviction. 31a. Death penalty for certain offenses after previous conviction. 32. Punishment for offense for which no punishment is provided. 32a. No suspension, remission or commutation in any sentence awarded under this Act. 32b. Factors to be taken into account for imposing higher than the minimum punishment. 33. Application of Section 360 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, 1973 and of the Probation of Offenders Act, 1958. 34. Security for abstaining from commission of offense. 35. Presumption of culpable mental state. 36. Constitution of Special Court. 36a. Offenses triable by special courts. 36b. Appeal and revision. 36c. Application of code to proceedings before a special court. 36d. Transitional provisions. 37. Offenses to be cognizable and non-bailable. 38. Offenses by companies. 39. Power of court to release certain offenders on probation. 40. Power of court to publish names, place of business, etc., of certain offenders. Chapter V. Procedure. 41. Power to issue warrant and authorization. 42. Power of entry, search, seizure and arrest without warrant or authorization. 43. Power of seizure and arrest in public place. 44. Power of entry, search, seizure and arrest in offenses relating to coca plant, opium poppy and cannabis plant. 45. Procedure where seizure of goods liable to confiscation not practicable. 46. Duty of landholder to give information of illegal cultivation. 47. Duty of certain officers to give information of illegal cultivation. 48. Power of attachment of crop illegally cultivated. 49. Power to stop and search conveyance. 50. Conditions under which search of persons shall be conducted. 50a. Power to undertake controlled delivery. 51. Provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure, 1973 to apply to warrants, arrests, searches and seizures. 52. Disposal of persons arrested and articles seized. 52a. Disposal of seized narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. 53. Power to invest officers of certain departments with powers of an officer in charge of a police station. 53a. Relevancy of statements under certain circumstances. 54. Presumption from possession of illicit articles. 55. Police to take charge of articles seized and delivered. 56. Obligation of officers to assist each other. 57. Report of arrest and seizure. 57a. Report of seizure of property of the person arrested by the notified officer. 58. Punishment for vexatious entry, search, seizure or arrest. 59. Failure of officer in duty or his connivance at the contravention of the provisions of this Act. 60. Liability of illicit drugs, substances, plants, articles and conveyances to confiscation. 61. Confiscation of goods used for concealing illicit drugs or substances. 62. Confiscation of sale proceeds of illicit drugs or substances. 63. Procedure in making confiscations. 64. Power to tender immunity from prosecution. 64a. Immunity from prosecution to addicts volunteering for treatment. 65. Omitted. 66. Presumption as to documents in certain cases. 67. Power to call for information, etc. 68. Information as to commission of offences. Chapter VA. Forfeiture of illegally acquired property. 68A. Application. 68B. Definitions. 68C. Prohibition of holding illegally acquired property. 68D. Competent authority. 68E. Identifying illegally acquired property. 68F. Seizure or freezing of illegally acquired property. 68G. Management of properties seized or forfeited under this chapter. 68H. Notice of forfeiture of property. 68I. Forfeiture of property in certain cases. 68J. Burden of proof. 68K. Fine in lieu of forfeiture. 68L. Procedure in relation to certain trust properties. 68M. Certain transfers to be null and void. 68N. Constitution of Appellate Tribunal. 68O. Appeals. 68P. Notice or order not to be invalid for error in description. 68Q. Bar of jurisdiction. 68R. Competent authority and appellate tribunal to have powers of civil court. 68S. Information to competent authority. 68T. Certain offices to assist administrator, competent authority and appellate tribunal. 68U. Power to take possession. 68V. Rectification of mistakes. 68W. Findings under other laws not conclusive for proceedings under this chapter. 68X. Service of notices and orders. 68Y. Punishment for acquiring property in relation to which proceedings have been taken, under this chapter. 68Z. Release of property in certain cases. Chapter VI. Miscellaneous. 69. Protection of action taken in good faith. 70. Central government and state government to have regard to international conventions while making rules. 71. Power of government to establish centers for identification, treatment, etc., of addicts and for supply of narcotic drug and psychotropic substances. 72. Recovery of sums due to government. 73. Bar of jurisdiction. 74. Transitional provisions. 74A. Power of central government to give directions. 75. Power to delegate. 76. Power of central government to make rules. 77. Rules and notifications to be laid before Parliament. 78. Power of state government to make rules. 79. Application of the Customs Act, 1962. 80. Application of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, 1940 not barred. 81. Saving of state and special laws. 82. Repeal and savings. 83. Power to remove difficulties. The Schedule. The Legal Services Authorities Act, 1987. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. The National Legal Services Authority. 3. Constitution of the National Legal Services Authority. 3A. Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. 4. Functions of the Central Authority. 5. Central Authority to work in coordination with other agencies. Chapter 3. State Legal Services Authority. 6. Constitution of State Legal Services Authority. 7. Functions of the State Authority. 8. State Authority to act in coordination with other agencies, etc., and be subject to directions given by the Central Authority. 8A. High Court Legal Services Committee. 9. District Legal Services Authority. 10. Functions of the District Authority. 11. District Authority to act in coordination with other agencies and be subject to directions given by the Central Authority, etc. 11A. Taluk Legal Services Committee. 11B. Functions of Taluk Legal Services Committee. Chapter IV. Entitlement to legal services. 12. Criteria for giving legal services. 13. Entitlement of legal services. Chapter V. Finance, Accounts and Audit. 14. Grants by the central government. 15. National Legal Aid Fund. 16. State Legal Aid Fund. 17. District Legal Aid Fund. 18. Accounts and Audit. Chapter VI. Loc ADALATS. 19. Organization of Loc Adalats. 20. Cognizance of cases by Loc Adalats. 21. Award of Loc Adalat. 22. Powers of Loc Adalat or permanent Loc Adalat. Chapter via pre-litigation conciliation and settlement. 22a. Definitions. 22b. Establishment of permanent Loc Adalats. 22c. Cognizance of cases by permanent Loc Adalat. 22d. Procedure of permanent Loc Adalat. 22e. Award of permanent Loc Adalat to be final. Chapter 7. Miscellaneous. 23. Members and staff of authorities, committees and Loc Adalats to be public servants. 24. Protection of action taken in good faith. 25. Act to have overriding effect. 26. Power to remove difficulties. 27. Power of central government to make rules. 28. Power of state government to make rules. 29. Power of central authority to make regulations. 29a. Power of state authority to make regulations. 30. Laying of rules and regulations. The Scheduled Castes and the Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities, Act, 1989. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. Offences of Atrocities. 3. Punishments for offences atrocities. 4. Punishment for neglect of duties. 5. Enhanced punishment subsequent conviction. 6. Application of certain provisions of the Indian Penal Code. 7. Forfeiture of property of certain persons. 8. Presumption as to offences. 9. Conferment of powers. Chapter 3. Exterment. 10. Removal of person likely to commit offence. 11. Procedure on failure of person to remove himself from area and enter thereon after removal. 12. Taking measurements and photographs, etc., of persons against whom order under Section 10 is made. 13. Penalty for non-compliance of order under Section 10. Chapter IV. Special Courts. 14. Special Court and Exclusive Special Court. 14a. Appeals. 15. Special Public Prosecutor and Exclusive Public Prosecutor. Chapter EVA. Rights of Victims and Witnesses. 15a. Rights of Victims and Witnesses. 16. Power of State Government to impose collective fine. 17. Preventive action to be taken by the law and order machinery. 18. Section 438 of the Code not to apply to persons committing an offence under the Act. 18a. No inquiry or approval required. 19. Section 360 of the Code or the provisions of the Probation of Offenders Act not to apply to persons guilty of an offence under the Act. 20. Act to override other laws. 21. Duty of government to ensure effective implementation of the Act. 22. Protection of action taken in good faith. 23. Power to make rules. The Schedule. Protection of Human Rights Act, 1993. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. The National Human Rights Commission. 3. Constitution of a National Human Rights Commission. 4. Appointment of chairperson and other members. 5. Resignation and removal of chairperson and members. 6. Term of office of chairperson and members. 7. Member to act as chairperson or to discharge his functions in certain circumstances. 8. Terms and conditions of service of chairperson and members. 9. Vacancies, etc., not to invalidate the proceedings of the Commission. 10. Procedure to be regulated by the Commission. 11. Officers and other staff of the Commission. Chapter 3. Functions and powers of the Commission. 12. Functions of the Commission. 13. Powers relating to inquiries. 14. Investigation. 15. Statement made by persons to the Commission. 16. Persons likely to be prejudicially affected to be heard. Chapter IV. Procedure. 17. Inquiry into complaints. 18. Steps during and after inquiry. 19. Procedure with respect to armed forces. 20. Annual and special reports of the Commission. Chapter V. State Human Rights Commissions. 21. Constitution of State Human Rights Commissions. 22. Appointment of chairperson and other members of State Commission. 23. Resignation and removal of a chairperson or a member of the State Commission. 24. Term of office of chairperson and members of the State Commission. 25. Member to act as chairperson or to discharge his functions in certain circumstances. 26. Terms and conditions of service of chairperson and members of State Commission. 27. Officers and other staff of the State Commission. 28. Annual and special reports of State Commission. 29. Application of certain provisions relating to National Human Rights Commission to State Commissions. Chapter VI. Human Rights Courts. 30. Human Rights Courts. 31. Special Public Prosecutor. Chapter 7. Finance, Accounts and Audit. 32. Grants by the Central Government. 33. Grants by the State Government. 34. Accounts and Audit. 35. Accounts and Audit of State Commission. Chapter 8. Miscellaneous. 36. Matters not subject to jurisdiction of the Commission. 37. Constitution of Special Investigation Teams. 38. Protection of action taken in good faith. 39. Members and officers to be public servants. 40. Power of central government to make rules. 40a. Power to make rules retrospectively. 40b. Power of Commission to make regulations. 41. Power of state government to make rules. 42. Power to remove difficulties. 43. Repeal and savings. The Information Technology Act, 2000. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, extent, commencement and application. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. Digital signature and electronic signature. 3. Authentication of electronic records. 3a. Electronic signature. Chapter 3. Electronic governance. 4. Legal recognition of electronic records. 5. Legal recognition of electronic signatures. 6. Use of electronic records and electronic signatures in government and its agencies. 6a. Delivery of services by service provider. 7. Retention of electronic records. 7a. Audit of documents, etc., maintained in electronic form. 8. Publication of rule, regulation, etc., in electronic gazette. 9. Sections 6, 7 and 8 not to confer right to insist document should be accepted in electronic form. 10. Power to make rules by central government in respect of electronic signature. 10a. Validity of contracts formed through electronic means. Chapter IV. Attribution, acknowledgement and dispatch of electronic records. 11. Attribution of electronic records. 12. Acknowledgement of receipt. 13. Time and place of dispatch and receipt of electronic record. Chapter V. Secure electronic records and secure electronic signature. 14. Secure electronic record. 15. Secure electronic signature. 16. Security procedures and practices. Chapter VI. Regulation of certifying authorities. 17. Appointment of controller and other officers. 18. Functions of controller. 19. Recognition of foreign certifying authorities. 20. Omitted. 21. License to issue electronic signature certificates. 22. Application for license. 23. Renewal of license. 24. Procedure for grant or rejection of license. 25. Suspension of license. 26. Notice of suspension or revocation of license. 27. Power to delegate. 28. Power to investigate contraventions. 29. Access to computers and data. 30. Certifying authority to follow certain procedures. 31. Certifying authority to ensure compliance of the Act, etc. 32. Display of license. 33. Surrender of license. 34. Disclosure. Chapter 7. Electronic signature certificates. 35. Certifying authority to issue electronic signature certificate. 36. Representations upon issuance of digital signature certificate. 37. Suspension of digital signature certificate. 38. Revocation of digital signature certificate. 39. Notice of suspension or revocation. Chapter 8. Duties of subscribers. 40. Generating key pair. 40A. Duties of subscriber of electronic signature certificate. 41. Acceptance of digital signature certificate. 42. Control of private key. Chapter IX. Penalties, compensation and adjudication. 43. Penalty and compensation for damage to computer, computer system, etc. 43A. Compensation for failure to protect data. 44. Penalty for failure to furnish information, return, etc. 45. Residuary penalty. 46. Power to adjudicate. 47. Factors to be taken into account by the adjudicating officer. Chapter X. The Appellate Tribunal. 48. Appellate Tribunal. 49. Omitted. 50. Omitted. 51. Omitted. 52. Omitted. 52A. Omitted. 52B. Omitted. 52C. Omitted. 52D. Decision by majority. 53. Omitted. 54. Omitted. 55. Orders constituting appellate tribunal to be final and not to invalidate its proceedings. 56. Omitted. 57. Appeal to appellate tribunal. 58. Procedure and powers of the appellate tribunal. 59. Right to legal representation. 60. Limitation. 61. Civil court not to have jurisdiction. 62. Appeal to High Court. 63. Compounding of contraventions. 64. Recovery of penalty or compensation. Chapter 11. Offenses. 65. Tampering with computer source documents. 66. Computer-related offenses. 66A. Punishment for sending offensive messages through communication service, etc. 66B. Punishment for dishonestly receiving stolen computer resource or communication device. 66C. Punishment for identity theft. 66D. Punishment for cheating by personation by using computer resource. 66E. Punishment for violation of privacy. 66F. Punishment for cyber terrorism. 67. Punishment for publishing or transmitting obscene material in electronic form. 67A. Punishment for publishing or transmitting of material containing sexually explicit act, etc., in electronic form. 67B. Punishment for publishing or transmitting of material depicting children in sexually explicit act, etc., in electronic form. 67C. Preservation and retention of information by intermediaries. 68. Power of controller to give directions. 69. Power to issue directions for interception or monitoring or decryption of any information through any computer resource. 69A. Power to issue directions for blocking for public access of any information through any computer resource. 69B. Power to authorize to monitor and collect traffic data or information through any computer resource for cyber security. 70. Protected system. 70A. National Nodal Agency. 70B. Indian Computer Emergency Response Team to serve as national agency for incident response. 71. Penalty for misrepresentation. 72. Penalty for breach of confidentiality and privacy. 72A. Punishment for disclosure of information in breach of lawful contract. 73. Penalty for publishing electronic signature certificate false in certain particulars. 74. Publication for fraudulent purpose. 75. Act to apply for offense or contravention committed outside India. 76. Confiscation. 77. Compensation, penalties or confiscation not to interfere with other punishment. 77A. Compounding of offenses. 77B. Offenses with 3 years imprisonment to be bailable. 78. Power to investigate offenses. Chapter 12. Intermediaries not to be liable in certain cases. 79. Exemption from liability of intermediary in certain cases. Chapter XIIA. Examiner of electronic evidence. 79A. Central government to notify examiner of electronic evidence. Chapter 13. Miscellaneous. 80. Power of police officer and other officers to enter, search, etc. 81. Act to have overriding effect. 81A. Application of the Act to electronic check and truncated check. 82. Controller, deputy controller and assistant controller to be public servants. 83. Power to give directions. 84. Protection of action taken in good faith. 84a. Modes or methods for encryption. 84b. Punishment for abetment of offenses. 84c. Punishment for attempt to commit offenses. 85. Offenses by companies. 86. Removal of difficulties. 87. Power of central government to make rules. 88. Constitution of advisory committee. 89. Power of controller to make regulations. 90. Power of state government to make rules. 91. Omitted. 92. Omitted. 93. Omitted. 94. Omitted. The first schedule. The second schedule. The third schedule, omitted. The fourth schedule, omitted. Chhattisgarh Shaikshanik Sansthan Me Pratana Kar Pratishad Adhiniam, 2001. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. 3. Prohibition of ragging. 4. Punishment. 5. Offense to be cognizable, non-bailable and non-compoundable. 6. Trial of offense. 7. Disqualification for remaining a student. Right to Information Act, 2005. Chapter I. Preliminary. Sections. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. Chapter 2. Right to Information and Obligations of Public Authorities. 3. Right to Information. 4. Obligations of Public Authorities. 5. Designation of Public Information Officers. 6. Request for obtaining information. 7. Disposal of request. 8. Exemption from disclosure of information. 9. Grounds for rejection to access in certain cases. 10. Severability. 11. Third-party information. Chapter 3. The Central Information Commission. 12. Constitution of Central Information Commission. 13. Terms of office and conditions of service. 14. Removal of Chief Information Commissioner or Information Commissioner. Chapter IV. The State Information Commission. 15. Constitution of State Information Commission. 16. Term of office and conditions of service. 17. Removal of State Chief Information Commissioner or State Information Commissioner. Chapter V. Powers and functions of the Information Commissions, appeal and penalties. 18. Powers and functions of Information Commissions. 19. Appeal. 20. Penalties. Chapter VI. Miscellaneous. 21. Protection of action taken in good faith. 22. Act to have overriding effect. 23. Bar of jurisdiction of courts. 24. Act not to apply to certain organizations. 25. Monitoring and reporting. 26. Appropriate government to prepare programs. 27. Power to make rules by appropriate government. 28. Power to make rules by competent authority. 29. Laying of rules. 30. Power to remove difficulties. 31. Repeal. The first schedule. The second schedule. C.G. Tonhi Pratadna Nivaran Act, 2005. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. 3. Act not in derogation of any other law. 4. Punishment for identifying Tonahi. 5. Punishment for harassment. 6. Punishment for alleged curing. 7. Punishment for claiming to be Tonahi. 8. Punishment for attempt to commit offense. 9. Trial of offenses under the Act. 10. Offenses to be cognizable and non-bailable. 11. Application of Section 360 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, 1973 and of the Probation of Offenders Act, 1958. 12. Matters to be taken into consideration for fixing fine. 13. Order for compensation. 14. Bar of jurisdiction. 15. Protection of action taken in good faith. 16. Power to make rule. Chhattisgarh Vishesh Jan Suraksha Adhiniam, 2005. 1. Short title, Extent and Commencement. 2. Definitions. 3. Declaration of an organization as unlawful. 4. Representation by organization. 5. Constitution and reference to the Advisory Board. 6. Procedure of the Advisory Board. 7. Action upon the report of the Advisory Board. 8. Penalties. 9. Powers to notify and take possession of plates used for the purpose of unlawful activities. 10. Movable property found in the notification. 11. Powers to forfeit funds of an unlawful organization. 12. Revision. 13. Trespass upon notified places. 14. Bar of jurisdiction. 15. Protection of action taken in good faith. 16. Cognizance and investigation of offenses. 17. Constitution of organization. 18. Power to make rules. High Court of Chhattisgarh Rules, Criminal, 2005. The Food Safety and Standards Act,